I'm a child and adolescent psychologist, as Jumna said, but I'm also a researcher at IDRAAC, which is an institution for development of research and applied care in the field of mental health. And we've done at IDRAAC a lot of research in many different fields. I invite you to check the website if you're interested, to check our publications in national and international journals. But most importantly, what I want to say is that we've had the opportunity to, and specifically me, I was lucky to be part of several studies that were conducted by our institution on the effect of war in children and adolescents after the several episodes that Lebanon has gone through. So I'm happy to share with you the knowledge that we were able to gather from these studies on the very important subject of how to build resilience in children and adolescents in war times, specifically in war times. What are the risk factors? You know, we've done several studies, as I was saying, in schools, in the community, and with specific subgroups that were highly exposed to war times. And we've compared those, we've studied them for a long time, and we were able to compare those who grew up with a relatively good mental health and were resilient, and we compared them to those who had more issues, post-war issues, and trying to understand what were the parameters that led to that resilience, what helped, so we can learn from that experience and we can make useful recommendations out of these studies. So if you notice, my title of tonight is Parenting Under Stress, Challenges and Opportunities. Challenges is obvious. We know, يعني ما بدنا اتنين يحكوا فيها how challenging it is to parent under these stressful and uncertain times that we're going through. But I insist on the word opportunity too, because really, I strongly believe that in every challenging situation, in every difficult situation that we go through, there is always an opportunity for personal growth, for knowledge, for learning something. And you know whatever difficult is the situation, if you learn from it, it means that it didn't break you. It means that next time you're going to be stronger. But if you don't, then this is how it can break you, and this is how it can jeopardize your well-being. So I'm going to share with you, as I said, what I know about children in war times and what can help. But first, I want to convey this idea that I'd like to say that what is most important as a starting point is the assessment, is to assess what exactly is the situation that we are in a very objective manner, because we need to exactly understand what are we going to need to work on with our children and adolescents. So all these parameters have to do with the security, obviously, with what we need to do to improve our survival mode, but also how is our life doing in terms of daily routine. How is war disrupting it or not? To what level? And there are degrees of this. We're not all in the same situation. As a simple example is how some of us are online some of our kids are online for schooling. Some of them are going to school, and some others are with no school at all. So there is a disruption in the family routine, in the child's routine, in the parents' routine, that is not at equal level for all. There is this sense of uncertainty that differs. There is the trauma. There's some kids that are traumatized, some kids that are stressed, but not at equal levels. And it's really important to assess all that in a very objective way in order to realize what are we facing exactly, without any exaggeration or without any catastrophization, really. And we're going to talk more about that when we're going to talk about how to handle our thoughts and how to deal with our mind in order to put it in the best possible constructive frame. So this being said, if you think about all these parameters that I just mentioned, yani disruption of daily routine, uncertainty, stress, trauma, if you think survival mode, if you think about all these parameters, and I ask you now to think about the times of COVID or the time of Corona, you will realize that you've been all of you, I'm sure, through at least some of these same themes of uncertainty, of disruption of daily routine, of anxiety, of worry, of children's irritability, etc. So I really want to invite you to think, because that's really the first step towards resilience, is thinking, what have you possibly learned from this past experience? How did you deal with it? Regardless of whether you dealt with it well or less well or bad, regardless, what do you learn from that past experience? What happened to your kids? What happened to you? What did you do right? What could have been improved? What would you do differently if you were exposed again to it? And something very important that I want to highlight is, what have you learned from your kids' vulnerabilities? Because we all have strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, parents, kids, we all have strengths and weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. And those weaknesses are not necessarily activated in normal life. And they get triggered in times of stress, in times of uncertainties, in times of war. These vulnerabilities get triggered, and we discover some aspects of our kids that we were not aware of. So I want to ask you to think about, what have you discovered in your kids during, for example, your experience of Corona, or that had in common with these times the uncertainty and the disruption and all that. Obviously, it's very different, and the safety matter is very, very different. But still, I think you will discover, if you just ask yourself this question, you will discover that you are actually much more knowledgeable than you think, and that you can make use of your past experience in order to be yourself on your own, creative, and find creative way that are maybe similar or different to what you've applied before, in order to make it better. And that is really a first step towards having a resilient attitude, or ensuring or working towards ensuring the well-being of your children, because no children are the same, and your children, you get to know them better in times of stress and in times of uncertainties. So from my side, again, I'm going to share with you what the research has found. And again, and obviously, I invite you to have, all of you, a paper and pencil in front of you, because I want to encourage you to take note of certain situations that you are living, or certain questions that you may have while I'm talking, so we can keep the second half of the session for you to share your experiences, and try together to answer your questions, or solve some problems by brainstorming together, and finding some healthy attitudes or healthy solutions to whatever you're going through. So please take notes of whatever ideas you have, and we'll get to them at the end of what I have to tell you, of my talk. So we're talking about resilience. I think it's important to start by thinking about this concept of resilience, what it is. And it's much more complex than one may think. So what is resilience? I've read a lot about it. I've thought a lot about it myself. And the best definition that I came across had to do with this capacity that we have to engage ourselves. It's a capacity that we have, or that we can develop. And we're going to talk how to develop that attitude. I've already gave you a hint just by doing some introspection of what you've been through, and in a constructive manner is already a proactive attitude that is a really strong pillar to resilience. In contrast with passivity. So resilience is this capacity that we can have or develop to engage ourselves in an active process that will lead to, hopefully, a positive adaptation of our behavior or our emotions in times of stress or trauma. And obviously, this applies for us as parents and also for our kids. But then you may want to ask me, well, how do you define positive adaptation? And that's a very important question, because we need to uh, think of what are we aiming for as parents for our children in order to say or to feel that they are adapted, or that they are resilient, or they are reacting in a constructive, in a positive, adaptive way that will ensure their well-being in the future after the trauma is over. Are we, for example, if I ask you this question, are you aiming for a child who has, with absence of symptoms, with absence of anxiety, with absence of feelings, deleting the emotions? Do you want him to develop, him or her develop immunity towards that stress? Do you want to him not to feel anything? Do you want him to develop certain skills that he will keep with him after the trauma is over, to give him a sense of pride, a sense of personal growth, a sense of self-confidence? So obviously the answer is not to delete emotions or delete negative emotions, neither in us nor in our kids. And this reminds me of this very common, I'm sure you've seen that post everywhere on social media, saying or stating that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. Yes, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have symptoms. It's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel worried. And it's important to know that, because it normalizes our feelings. Because sometimes we really feel like we're going crazy. And no, we're not going crazy. It's really so normal to feel the way we're feeling. So it's okay to be okay. What do we mean by that? We mean that it's normal to have some symptoms. But I'd like to add to that that it's so important, because we are all parents in this session. We have a responsibility towards our children, and it's maybe okay not to be okay, but it's also important to be proactive about that not feeling okay, and really think wisely and mindfully about what can we do for our kids, not to pass on our anxiety, and not to and to help them not develop their own too much to a degree that can be overwhelming, that can be paralyzing, that can lead us to take wrong decisions, or prevent us from taking good decisions. And this all, we're going to talk about it more in details. So and again, to go back to our studies and the findings, and what I'm saying right now, and no, the kids and us, we don't get affected all in the same way. Some kids don't get affected at all. Some parents don't get affected at all. Some of us get affected in certain ways only. For example, only concentration, only anxiety, only feeling down, etc. And most importantly, for resilience per se, uh, we need to see how frequently, how much of our day we feel affected. Are we overwhelmed? And for how long are we being affected? Do we have some space where we feel better, to think clearly, to take good decisions, to say the right word in the right time, to the right person? So it's important to realize that not all of us have the same needs, and not all of us have the same psychological response. And this depends on so many factors. The most important one, obviously, is the level of exposure that we are into. Yani someone who has lost his house is not the same as someone who only need to move to a comfortable mountain, or to a less comfortable place, or to share a house with another person, or to go to school, or to stay online, or to work on one's own, etc. So there is this, and there is also another very important fact, is that our response to war doesn't happen from scratch. Yani we come and we are forced to face war, not from scratch. We're not all equal as a baseline, as a starting point. Each of us has his own story, his own life history, the past traumas, baseline level of stress, baseline level of anxiety. And this is really important to become aware of. For example, a person who has witnessed the 4th of August directly will not face this war the same way as a person who has just heard of it from far away, who had the opportunity to travel, or etc. So we come with a bagage, we come with already some, as I said earlier indifferently, some strengths and some weaknesses of our own, and we need to be conscious of them, so we address them, or so we seek help, or so we at least find a way to handle them, as I will expose it later. So if I am to summarize it, then based on what I was saying, there are different set of factors that interfere in our emotional response to war times or to uncertainties. And these factors, for us as well as for our children, they are of three categories. I would say family factors, community and environmental factors, and personal factors that pertain to our personal competence, to our personal vulnerabilities, etc. So let me first start by elaborating on the environmental factors that include the family factors as well as the community factors. So what we found, what our research has highlighted, is that in the family factors and the environmental factors, what is very important and what contribute to the child's resilience is a setting where a family setup where there is clarity in the information, يعني where there is not where the parents and the kids know exactly what is the issue, what is the risk, uh, and the discourse, the talk around is not highly biased by rumors, by excessive analysis or that go on TV shows where people, I understand, have the need to analyze and predict the future and make assumptions, and this is all kind of spreading rumors and increasing insecurities and increasing uncertainties. So what research has shown is that the more you limit of that, the more the child is in a context where the risk is clear, the we know what we're dealing with. We don't rely on assumptions. We don't listen to rumors. We don't nurture fake news. We don't discuss. We don't. Yani sometimes there is like a uh, like I, I can think of my own, friend groups where sometimes we compete to give the worst news first and to, put pictures on WhatsApp groups that are horrific and that are useless. So it's important to share information that is useful to help our safety behavior, to help us take certain decisions. But it is really useless to keep discussing endlessly and overwhelming our minds and our children's ears with assumptions, analysis, discussions, rumors that only the only effect of it is to increase insecurity and worsen the child's capacity for resilience and for thinking about something else, for distracting himself from whatever is going on, because you leave too little space for that family to to do something else. Another thing is also proven to increase risk, is a risk factor for resilience, is when you have in the family, and this is, I think, what can be common in many Lebanese families because we are such a mixed population. And it was noticed by research that people who have families where there are no agreement on on political views, on religious views, on values, on these very important concepts that trigger discussions, and sometimes discussions turns into fight, and fight turn into aggressivity, etc. That expose the kids to these kinds of of conflict and also these contradictions in opinions and in views. If the kids is exposed to that, it's really important to leave him alone and push him away from these discussions where there is no agreement, because this also raise anxiety, raise the feeling of worrying and insecurity a big time. And that's not my personal opinion. This is really based on data. So yeah, so the environment, as I'm highlighting, is really important to keep in terms of clarity and in terms of um agreement between people who belong to the same family or the same community or the same environment. Another thing that's very important is, and I say it because maybe you can yourself think for your children how you can make sure to maintain it or implement it, which is uh, we found that kids who, despite everything that's going on, had the opportunity to practice their leisure activities in a way or another, including sports or hobbies or social activities, are better off than those who were deprived from these same opportunities. So, whatever you can do to help or allow your kids to really continue or develop, sometimes staying at home is an opportunity to develop hobbies, to develop activities that we've never thought of, etc. And we're going to talk more about some ideas and tips later on in the talk. But the big title is really being deprived from social networking, leisure activities, or hobbies or sports is unfortunately has a very negative impact on well-being. Another parameter that was surprising in what the kids reported during war times is those who had kind teachers, those who had supportive teachers, understanding, tolerant teachers, were better off than those who did not were not as lucky. And here, what I can say is that نحن as parents, we really need to be conscious and aware of what the teachers are going through. And I'm saying that not at all to for you to have in mind to uh, blame the teacher for not being kind enough or for being more irritable than usual. Not at all. On the contrary, I think you have a role to play with بالعكس appreciating and praising and thanking the teachers for all their efforts, because I think if they get that feedback from you, this is automatically normally going to give them the motivation and the incentive for them to be in a better mood while taking care of your kids, because they are feeling appreciated, they are feeling عن جد هيك validated for the efforts, for all the efforts that they are putting with your kids. And it is your role nowadays to try your best to عن جد give that feeling and that validation to the teacher, because they deserve it and they need it. And last but not least, very importantly, what I want to say is that uh, a very important parameter to or thermometer to the child's well-being is how the parents are doing themselves, how you guys are doing themselves, how we are doing in these difficult times. And it has been proven that happy parents are more likely to generate resilient children. Why? Because parents, and Jad, you really need to take care of your mood. You really need to take care of your anxiety. If you feel you're not doing well, if you feel you're anxious, worried, angry, irritable, impatient, please seek help. Please take care of yourself. And Jad, it's important. It's like in the plane when the hostess tell us to put our oxygen mask first and then be able to put the oxygen to our kids. يعني they ask us to take care of ourselves first, and I am asking you to do the same. If you know how to take care of yourself, that's amazing. Please do it. Please make sure you take care of yourself. You take care of your well-being. You do what is needed to find ways to relax, to distract yourself, whatever is good for you to do to feel good. And if you can't, then really it's time to seek help, because this is of major importance to the child's mental health and well-being. Kids are really sensitive, and they're so sensitive that what's going to happen during these difficult times is that they're going to download in their brain your emotional states, and they're going to download them in a way that they're going to make it their own. It's going to be their own, whether يعني unconsciously, without them really willingly wanting to do that. They're going to absorb your emotions. They're going to absorb whatever your distress is, and this is going to highly make them feel insecure. So please, parents, Anjad, make yourself a priority, because this is the only way for you to be able to build resilient children. This is the prerequisite. This is really the basic condition for this to be possible. And even if you, let's say you are okay and you're doing well, it is still going to be very challenging to be able to convey to your children what they need to be resilient. And what do they need? They need to develop, just like you, but just like us, they need to develop what we call this sense of balanced control. I repeat, sense of balanced control. What is sense of balanced control? In order to understand that, know what it is. لأنه excessive control is anxiety, and no control at all is chaos and يعني impulsivity, and this is really not appropriate neither. So a sense of balanced control. How do you reach that state, and how do you convey that to your children? Well, the first step is that you learn and you become aware, and so you'll be able to teach your children that very strong and important and powerful connection between your body and your mind. A state of balance control can be more easily reached if you realize, if you are aware that there is a strong connection between the mind and the body. Why? Because some people, for example, they react to stress with physical symptoms like panic attacks, like restlessness, like agitation, etc. And some people react to stress with cognitive worries, with thoughts, overwhelming thoughts, freezing mentally, brain fog, etc. Lack of concentration, lack of capacity to take decisions, lack of capacity to think. And there is a very, very strong connection between the mind and the body. And why is it important to know so? Because if if you have a hard time calming down your thoughts, one way to do it is by starting to calm down your body, and it will impact your thoughts. Why? Because if you have a quiet body that is not restless, that is not hyperventilating, that is not in a state of panic attack, that is not in a edgy state of anxiety, then you can think more clearly, then you can problem solve more clearly. And then you can actually check the validity of your thoughts more efficiently. And the other way around too, if you have a lot of thoughts and you make that exercise of checking your emotions, checking your thoughts, this is going to calm down your anxiety, your physical anxiety, and your body. So depending on your style and your personality and your preference, if you understand that there is a very, very strong connection between body and mind, if you understand that connection, and if you learn some tips to control your body, but in a state of and help it reach a state of balanced control, control your mind and help it reach a state of balanced control, then you're more likely to nurture your well-being. So how to do that? How to reach a state? What is a state of body balance control? يعني شو يعني إنه to be concerning the body إنه how to reach a state of body balance control. Well, first you need to ask yourself the right questions about how your body is functioning. يعني the physiology of your body. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How is the state of your energy? Are you resting enough? Are you moving enough? Do you know how to breathe when you have panic attacks or when you are feeling edgy or restless or agitated? So you really need to take care of your body physiology and make sure to help yourself to have this physiology working properly. And for example, I have two tips for you for calming down your body, other than taking care of your sleep, what you eat, having enough rest, etc. What is really, I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, is the breathing exercises. Now, learning to breathe is a bit is not as easy done than said. The principles of breathing want us to breathe very slowly and to focus on our breathing and breathe as slowly as inhaling or taking in the air for 4 seconds and exhaling or letting out the air during 6 seconds. And another tip for breathing correctly is it depends from where you breathe, because if you breathe from your chest like this, you're not helping yourself. On the contrary, you're actually provoking more hyperventilation, and it's going to worsen your body balance, your feeling of balance in your body. So you need to feel the air. You need to let in the air in your tummy, not in your chest. You need to breathe with your tummy. So you need to let the air in with your tummy. So what can help is to put your one hand on your tummy and breathe in and feeling like your tummy is getting like a balloon, like that. You see, my chest is not moving, but my tummy is really blowing. And when I let out the air, it also has to get out of my tummy. And I repeat that really slowly. I count 4 in, 6 out, and I focus on how the air is going in and out. And hopefully this leads to calming down the agitation, the inner restlessness, if you do it for 2 minutes. And again, I know that it's much easier said than done. And this is why I want to strongly encourage you to go to YouTube, because on YouTube you can find really nice short videos that can accompany your meditation or your breathing. And I'm not asking you to do that during the day in a very artificial way or manner. No, but you can make that be as part of your routine before sleeping or at the time you wake up, because really this brings back the body control شو اسمها the body balanced control that I'm talking about, which is bringing your body back to resting. يعني if you do that when you wake up, you start your day with a baseline body stress level that is normal, that is not higher than normal. مثلا عم تسمعوا درون كل الليل بتفيقوا على بكره في stress. So you need to start your day with a lower level than the stress you woke up with. And that exercise of breathing will bring your stress level down, your body stress level down. And doing that at night too, or doing that when you feel comfortable with doing it easily, you're going to find it useful to also do it when you just are out of breath and hyperventilating or in the middle of a panic attack. Now, for kids, it's very difficult to teach them to breathe. So I have two tips for you. There are two games that I really enjoy playing with kids to help them relax. The first one is the soap bubbles. Why? Because when you use the soap bubbles, to make bubbles with soap, you really need to breathe very slowly in order for the bubble to go big. And you can play that game with your kids of or that type that you can initiate a competition of who in the family is going to have the biggest bubbles, and repeating that exercise will in a family context may create some fun, some laughter, and laughter also, by the way, helps the breathing too. And most importantly, going to train kids through the bubbles, through wanting to make big bubbles with the soap, to breathe slowly and calmly in order to win the competition of the biggest bubble. And another game I really find useful, that I practiced with some kids in the community when I was helping children of war, is having at hand balloons, the balloons that we blow for birthdays. These balloons are really very useful because also when kids express their feelings, sometimes they don't know how to express, they don't, they cannot express how much they are scared, or they need to convey it to you and they feel you're not seeing it. So you give them a balloon and you say, blow the balloon, put all your worries or all your anxiety or all your anger, whatever it is, irritability, whatever it is, in this balloon. And you ask them to blow the balloon to make it as big as they feel is their worry. And then they feel reassured because you saw it, because you realize it and you validate it. Yani, kids need validation in their feelings. So when you are witnessing how much they are blowing the balloon, they feel that you're understanding them, and this brings security, feelings of security, feeling of hey, they relax because they feel they have your support, your attention, your empathy. It is so important to provide kids during these difficult times with empathy, feeling, and practicing empathetic listening to them, without necessarily always feeling the urge to find a solution. Yani, it's not the goal to solve always, to solve some problems we cannot solve, but just giving an empathetic listening, and validating their feelings and know what they're going through, is sometimes enough for them to feel that my parent is my backbone, my parent is there for me, even if you're not doing more than that. And then what you can do is that the kid will keep the balloon in his hand and show you how big it is, and then you can say, okay, now let your fear go away, let your anxiety go away, and they're going to see this balloon flying in the room or in the air, and they're going to laugh about it, and it's going to distract them a little bit and put some playful mood in all this anxiety and worry. So all these techniques get back to breathing, letting out from inside whatever I'm feeling, so my body is able to reach back that sense of balanced control that I'm trying to explain. And also another very important thing for people who are already doing sports activities, for parents and even kids who are already doing sports activities, as I was saying, it's really important to keep moving and to step out of a passive attitude. It's really important to engage yourself in moving. And thanks to technology, we can do that at home. We can engage our kids with us at home as much as possible, even if it's 10 minutes, good enough. And just 5 minutes is good enough, moving, dancing, these all these games, the video games that we have that encourage moving. It's really the time to practice them with our kids, or encourage them to practice them, or practice them on our own. And this is also how sometimes war times or times of uncertainties can be opportunities. Lano, even if we're not used to doing that, I think it's a good time to get started, and you will see the positive effects of it. So I've been talking about the body and how we can calm down the body, and I want to remind you about the strong connection that exists between the body and the mind. And now I'm going to talk about what goes on in our mind and how can we achieve that sense of balance, control in our mind, in our emotions, in our thoughts, because that's also really important. So what to do? First, as in everything, I talked initially at the beginning of the talk, I talked about how important it is to assess situations. And here it is important to assess your own mind and your own feelings and to put words to your feelings. What are you exactly feeling? Anger, resentment, deception, fear, worry, sadness, down, hopeless. You need to put words to your feelings. Why? Because that's the first step. And second step is you need to catch these automatic thoughts that come to us immediately with the feelings that accompany the feelings. And why I say catch? Because these are really automatic thoughts, like that come as a reflex. It's not that we consciously think about them. مثلا, today هيك I feel really 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 down بالمرة يعني I'm really down, no energy. I put some words to my feelings and I say I feel hopeless. And the automatic thoughts that comes with it is, we're all going to die. What is this war? It's killing us. That thought is a war thought. It's an automatic thought contaminated by whatever is happening, but it's not accurate. We're not all going to die. I'm not dying today. I'm not dying tomorrow. I can assess the safety of the place I'm in. And I owe it to myself to correct for that automatic thought, to moderate it, to challenge it, to test it, to check it. انه شو انا عم سمع حالي عم سمع حالي جمل اللي هي poison for the mind. يعني these automatic thoughts we tend not to give them importance, but in fact these are thoughts that nurture our anxiety. Unless we catch them and we say, عمهلك شوي, are you dying? No, we're not all gonna die. And here I encourage you to do that exercise, which is ask yourself, so first identify the emotion. Second, ask yourself the question, how accurate is the thought? And play that game of giving a percentage to the accuracy. يعني مثلا I feel hopeless, we're all gonna die, خلص راح المستقبل تبعنا, ما بقى في شيء, شو راح البلد. These thoughts. Then I say the question that I owe to myself is, how accurate is this thought thinking? How accurate is it? شو يعني how accurate? To make it more simple, I'm asking you to give a percentage. How much percent what I'm saying is true? And that game, you can play it with your kids too. When they come with, exaggerated statements, you don't deny the statements that they're making. You just validate the feeling, and then you help them say what they think. Yani identify the thought that is going with the feeling, and then you ask them, give me a percentage how much you think you're right in what you're saying, because it's not a matter of black or white. It's not a matter of yes or no. It's relative. يعني there is a chance we die. مظبوط يعني انه we cannot deny it. But how much percent is today this is true, or this week this is true? So I recenter myself in the here and now of the present, and I ask myself عن جد to objectively give a percentage to that thought, to that statement that I'm making, and that statement is creating a negative emotion. It's responsible for my negative emotions. So I cannot just let it invade my brain and my mind without checking its validity and checking how accurate it is. So if I say 50% مثلا, okay, why is it? Or if I give a percentage, why do I give a percentage? I give a percentage because that's percentage. يمكن أعطي percentage أنا 80% والله 80% أنا I don't feel my kids are safe. Maybe يعني أنا ما رح شارع حالي. I will say, okay, I feel that 80% that my kids مثلا, it's not safe that they go to school. Maybe I will decide, I will take action, and I will decide that today I feel this way, I think this way. My kids are not going to go to school, they're going to do it online. Now, sometimes if I know myself and I'm aware that I'm a person who tends to be very anxious, to tend to exaggerate, it's important also to check that percentage with my surrounding. Yani, I don't rely only on my own assessment only. I have to check what other people around me that I trust, okay, people I choose in my mind, people that I trust, and I ask myself, okay, those people, what is the percentage that they would give? And this is how I uh, moderate. I balance my thoughts. I balance them. لأنه it's not about denying the thoughts that are negative. It's not about deleting them. It's not about deleting the emotions. It's about finding the balance that will allow me, that balance will allow me to take decision of what comforts me, what to do to comfort myself, or learn to seek support, learn to seek help, or uh, do whatever it takes to make myself feel better, and check with others if I am right or wrong to feel that much anxiety. And if my conclusion with giving the percentage, my conclusion is, you know what, okay, it's 50%, but I cannot do anything about it لأنه عم بحكيكم عن taking action and being proactive, sorry. So, okay, 50%, I'm unsafe, but I cannot do anything about it. I cannot change houses. I cannot. So what am I left with? I cannot take a decision to make myself feel better. All I'm left with is distraction. And distraction is really powerful. Really powerful. You really need to get convinced. Yani it maybe sounds superficial or silly, but it's really important to distract your mind, to move the focus of control, the focus of attention and control it to somewhere else, take it to somewhere else, at least for a while, not for all day. أكيد the anxiety will come back, but at least create for yourself moments of distraction that will allow you to relax and to just realize, okay, if I can't do anything about it, I'm gonna distract myself from it because this is useless energy. So I know this is easier said than done, again, one more time, but I really encourage you, Anjad, to check your thoughts and to check the accuracy of your thoughts. And this you can do first by naming the feeling or the emotion, second by uh, phrasing, formulating the thought, catching the automatic thought, checking its validity with yourself by putting a percentage, and with others that you trust in your mind, or Anjad, call them and ask them what do they think. And then you can teach the same to your child to do the same. Kids can relate very easily to give a percentage if they are teenagers, and for younger ones, you can use a mastara or some kind of measure to tell them to use their finger to show you how much they think this is true or untrue, and you will see, and you will show them that, and you will show them and you will teach them not to think in terms of black and white thinking. خلاص we're dead أو we're totally safe. إنه في risk. We need to learn to evaluate that risk and to calm down and to take decision when we can and to distract ourselves when we cannot take decisions. So this is, I think, most of what I have to share with you. One last thing that I want to say is that one last research finding from our studies on during war times is that war times create chaos. It creates chaos in the city, it creates chaos in our mind, in our emotions, in our thoughts, in our behaviors. You need to be aware that war creates chaos, and chaos in turn, even if it's internal chaos, as in us as parents, the effect of it has been proven and demonstrated that on younger generation, the effect of chaos and emotional unavailability of parents leads to higher rates of impulsivity in the child's personality on the long term. مش عم بحكي short term إذا عصب هلأ. Higher rates of impulsivity, higher rates of hyperactivity, higher rates of incapacity to sustain attention and concentration. يعني trauma may mimic the chaos created by traumatic events, may lead kids to mimic a condition that may look like ADHD, like hyperactivity, like impulsivity, like excessive emotional reactivity, and it may become part of the child's personality. So that's why it's so important, and I want to conclude on this. It's so important that we take care of ourselves. If we are responsible of taking care of kids, we need to take care of our emotions first so we don't sink in that type of chaos. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Caroline, for these efficient comments. I just would like to, before we start by the questions and answers, we have some interesting comments, very constructive comments. I will read them and then we start. Please, you start by raising your hand through the emoji option. بس رح أقرأ شوي مثلا. So as Mrs. Nisreen said, take time for myself with some relaxation techniques. Mrs. Lisa Sofian, we learned that every difficult situation eventually comes to an end, even though while enduring it, we may feel it will last forever. The first step is to adopt a mindset that envisions the light at the end of the tunnel. After that, it's important to make adjustments to navigate the current challenges in the best possible way.
Amazing comments, Amjad. And I'm sure that this comes from experience, from previous stressful situations, as I was mentioning, masalan, COVID, or as I'm mentioning, 4th of August. Really amazing comments. You see, you are much more powerful than you think.
Okay. Mrs. Emily, to be honest, I feel guilty for letting my children experience what we experienced long time ago. We are doing our best to reassure them that whatever happens, we are here to protect them, but at the end, they are experiencing everything. What is your reply, dear Caroline?
Well, I think that I hope that whatever tips and techniques I gave to help your kids really relieve you from the guilt feeling, لأنه obviously you're not guilty of anything. يعني I don't want to point who is guilty, who is really guilty for all what's happening to us. But I want you to focus. I really invite you to focus on what you can do, not on what you cannot do, because obviously there are things that we cannot do. But obviously too, there are things that I'm sure you can do. By learning to reach that state of balanced control that I talked about and conveying it to your kids, you would be doing a lot, and actually you would be teaching them skills that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to teach them if this stressful situation would not have happened. I know يعني on s'en passe actually, but no, let's see the positive side of it. Let's build skills instead of focusing on what we cannot do.
Mrs. Nathalie Kik, knowing how to deal with the situation might make them stronger. It's not that we are happy, but since it's the sad reality, let's make out the best of it. We grew up in the war. We are strong enough to drive through this.
Top, Anjad, top. I'm so happy to hear these shared comments about there is this false, actually it's a false belief that trauma makes us stronger in general, but trauma can make us stronger if we learn something from it. That's what I started my talk with. Trauma, بالعكس, it weakens us. We feel weak. We get weak. But if we learn from it, then we grow stronger. And to learn from it, we really need to have to Anjad do whatever it takes to share our experiences together, to gather together like Yumna invited us to do today. And I really appreciate all the positive comments that I'm hearing that prove in Anjad it is useful to gather together and share such positive attitudes.
Okay. About the breathing you were talking about, it's called, Jumana said, parasympathetic breathing techniques.
Thank you, Jumana.
So emotional, as Nisreen said, emotional awareness is very important. It's very important to acknowledge the problem, the situation, and then try to deal with it.
Absolutely.
Voilà. Voilà. Mrs. Emily said something important. It's relieving for sure, but as you mentioned, I've learned that I need to take care of myself first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Remember the hostesses in the plane. They teach you to take care of yourself first. I really like this analogy because it's real. It's about safety of kids. The safety of our kids it has to
Depends on
start with
our.
our safety.
Mrs. Silvana Bitar has a question. At what point one should know that kids needs medical help? Good question.
Mm. Okay, when you have a change or a regression in adaptive behavior that lasts more than 3 weeks, 2, 3 weeks, then you need to seek help. But when it is less than 2 weeks, then you try your best with whatever you know, and you be patient, and you observe if things are getting better or getting worse. Obviously, if they're getting worse, then you need to seek help. The change, you need to observe the change in behavior that is long lasting, مش إنه نهار أو نهارين. And as it applies for adults too. You know, I said yes, it's okay to not to feel okay. It's normal to feel down. It's normal to feel worried. But if you feel like that all the time and all day long and for 2 weeks in a row with no space where you feel relieved or relaxed or better, then you need to seek help.
Okay, Tony Asi, thank you, Yumna, for the organization and Caroline for the much needed input. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Tony.
No, yeah, please. Anyone, do you have anyone has additional questions, constructive comments, maybe testimonies? استفيدوا من كارولين.
Anyway, Yumna, what I would like to ask you is to, if the audience agrees, I would like to have all their emails
Of
to send
course.
them a kind of summary or PowerPoint of all what has been said, so they keep them in mind as flashcards to use when needed. To remind themselves and also to help people around them to share these information with people around them. So if you don't mind to share with me their emails, and I'll make sure that
Of course, I
everyone
will.
gets.
And
Yeah.
we have other questions, Caroline. Jumana, I have a question. What do say about what is happening to less fortunate people? What to say about what's happening to less fortunate people in the South, for example. So she means what to say to her kids about the less fortunate people in the South, for examples.
Mm.
For example.
I think we need to, for kids, what we need to say is to highlight the positive aspects of community support and how some NGOs or some personal initiatives or groups are really helping out, and reassure the child that how this about the solidarity between people, and there is always someone who helps someone, and most people find someone to help them, whether it is someone in the family, in the larger family, or in the community, strangers. We need to reassure kids that, and also we need to enhance this idea of solidarity and help, and maybe we can do such an activity with our kids, a kid at their developmental level, something that is acceptable at their developmental level, to expose them to these proactive helping attitudes by maybe participating in a way or another, to helping someone or to offering support, or You know, there are many young youth that are volunteering for such work. And if the age is appropriate, I think we can encourage at least one action per teenager. It will make them feel that everyone is safe and everyone has someone to take care of.
Okay. Mrs. Rania, thank you. We really needed this explanation and especially the hints for kids. Mrs. Jumana, thank you. It was pretty much needed in such hard times, and please do invite us to future webinars if any. Stay safe. Akid. Follow Tomorrow Routine Forum, follow Caroline, follow IDRAAC. We are all here to support you anytime. Joanne, thank you for your time and effort. Eliana, thank you so much for sharing us these useful tips. Rula, thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Very informative. Thank you, Yumna and Caroline, Mrs. Tamar, Mrs. Lisa, yes, and also awaken in the empathy and compassion.
Mm-hmm. Amazing how each of the audience, each person in the audience has again yani highlighted again to as a reminder, you know, these important and helpful attitude. Empathy is so important.
Yes. There's a comment by Mrs. Zena. I like a lot the part of managing thoughts. It's really helpful. But there's an additional guilt feeling that keep annoying me personally. And it is when reaching the accuracy of 50% and going for the distraction option. I keep feel guilty that I should not distract myself and keep finding probable solutions.
Zena, if you want, we can talk later about it one-to-one. But what I want to tell you is that, you know, we all feel somehow guilty. It's normal to feel guilty. I'm sure you've heard other people feeling guilty too, but you need to remind yourself of what you can do and do it. And I think that will help you.
Okay, and anyway, Zena, you can communicate directly with Mrs. Caroline or with me, and we will try to support you. Okay, any other questions before we leave, before we end this session?
Thank you all for showing up. I hope it was helpful. Please feel free to send me questions via email.
Hello,
or
good
via
evening.
email.
Yes.
I don't know if we can comment verbally or just written messages.
No,
because...
verbally.
Of course,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Nicole, go ahead.
Yes. I'm a mother of two girls. One is 5 years old and the second one is 2 years old. Actually, we live in Beirut and we have another place in Ajaltoun. When the situations becomes more and more critical down, we moved to Ajaltoun. And now the schools opened down. So my girl, she's in KG3. She refused to go back to Ashrafi or Beirut, and we're going. She wants to go to school, but she refused to live there. So I'm facing this problem. How to assure her that okay, it's a kind of safe place. Today I we played, we blow balloons and so on. Even I'm trying to pray with her, to pray for the sake of Lebanon, for God to save us all. But still she cannot leave me for 1 second. Yani she cannot enter a room without being with me. She's traumatized. I don't know how to help her more and to feel her to let her feel secure, since I'm traumatized myself, because I was her age exactly when the war started, or at least I was 89 and 90s, so it's all coming back in my memory. in my childhood memory. So I know that I should work on myself more and more, and I'm trying as much as possible not to put news, not to listen to rumors like you said. But still the kids are afraid. Today مثلا صار في this جدار صوت, this drone all time in Beirut. It's really annoying. And my girl is aware of this situation, especially that she see from our place in Ajaltoun, we can see where the bombs are.
Excuse me. You know, I really appreciate your intervention and your question, and I want to help you. But if you please, you can call me at another time because your situation is very specific, and this session is more, يعني, is meant to remain global. You know, the tips have to remain general. For me to help you, for instance, I need to ask you a lot of questions about your background, about your child's personality, which is not the goal and the space, the right space here in this session to do that. But please take my contact from Yumna, and I will be more than happy to spend some time with you on the phone to discuss it if you feel you need it, and I'll be more than happy to offer you support. But it's not the right space to do that here.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So much. But the kids in her class, they are feeling same, yeah, same situation. They are afraid. The kids are afraid.
I will send you now, Nicole, when we end the webinar, I will send you immediately Mrs. Caroline's phone number. We have a last question, and then we're going to end the session. The last question is, Caroline, from Mrs. Jess, can you please elaborate on how trauma can present itself as ADHD later on?
Yes, trauma can present, these are really facts from research. And what we found is that, as I said, trauma creates chaos. And trauma creates in parents some level of emotional unavailability. And that emotional unavailability of parents make them develop parenting attitudes that are, for example, much more permissive than usual, much more neglectful than usual, much less present than usual, because of the parents' own emotional unavailability and trauma. They become less present with their kids. They are less keen to discipline, to structure, to organization. It's chaos. And that chaos, when it lasts for a long period of time, it's not a matter of a month or 2 or 3 or a week, but when it lasts, and this is the threat we are exposed to now, and everyone is saying the war will last very long. So we need to be aware that despite the fact that the war induces chaos, disrupts the routine, disrupts the daily life of our kids and our lives, our personal lives, we need to watch that chaos and prevent it from happening in our families, because disruption and chaos leads, if it stays long-term, it leads to long-term personality traits that mimic ADHD. The kid becomes hyperactive, the kid is affected in his attention span, and it's difficult to reverse that unless you really work hard on it. So prevention is better than dealing with it afterwards. Prevention, yani watch your family, yani you can change the discipline, you can change the routine, but you still have to keep a certain routine. You cannot just let go everything and delete rules in the house and say do whatever you want, stay until 1 o'clock after midnight awake, it doesn't matter, there's no school. Yani you need to watch the discipline. It has to be a different discipline, an adapted discipline, an adjusted discipline, but still they need to feel that the structure is maintained and that parents are still a reference, they are present, and they are accountable for their behavior, for what they do, and that's how you prevent it. I hope this helped.
I will read just two last comments out of respect. No, not questions, but khalas. But, you know, because so Monsieur Didier said to Nicole, you're conscious that your experience from a former war comes back to you and it does hurt. And we have Mrs. Lisa also. I would also add that children should be relatively informed about what's happening around them so they understand better the situation and deal with it with the parents' help. This is what you said, Caroline.
Mhm.
Très bien.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Yumna, again for this amazing initiative.
Thank you
Let me know
also,
if I can be of any further help for anyone. Of course, free of charge. I can give my time over the phone for any important or major issue anyone is undergoing. And if there is any need for any further sessions, please let me know. I'm available, and I think it is all our duty to help and support each other.